All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to tonight's meeting, everybody. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Fleming.
Here.
Vice Chair Davis. Here. Treasurer DeVarty.
Party here.
Secretary Hatcher.
Here.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
Here.
Trustee Milliken.
Here.
Trustee Peck.
Here.
Thank you, everybody. Next is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any discussion on the agenda? Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Up first is our public comments, and I do have one sign-in today. Mr. Haley.
Christina.
Where? What?
We need someone to support the agenda.
Oh, I
Support.
You support? Okay. Is that good? Okay. Mr. Haley, come on up. We have our microphone over here today.
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Haley, Ypsi Township. What I'm about to say goes into what you guys are going to talk about in the master plan. Right now, U of M is having a town hall at the Marriott in Ypsi about the data center that they want to put in Ypsi Township. And it's not that if we would, the people would prefer not to have it. If we were to have it, we don't want it to have it at the location where it is now. If I don't know if you guys are familiar with the location, it's going to be sitting right on the Snake Bend of the Huron River, just past the Ford Dam. A beautiful spot for hiking, natural animals, and everything. They want to tear all that down and build data centers there. All Ypsi Township resident or officials are asking is move it to the ACM site, where it's already industrialized, where it's already cleared. They can do it. They're refusing to do such things. And they're being hard, and basically everybody's throwing up an NDA saying we can't talk about it because of NDAs. And this is how it comes into you guys' master plan and the future of WCC. You abide by the same rules. I just ask that if you plan future buildings on this site or elsewhere, go to the local municipalities, even though you don't have to. Reach out and go, this is what we want to build, and just at least get them involved and hear their voice. Because right now, a lot of people in Ypsi Township's voice is not being heard. And U of M is just running them over. And if you've been to any of these meetings to hear U of M employees come to these meetings and talk about the data center and how U of M treats their employees and how U of M is a horrible institution. I don't want to hear that about you, please. I've heard good things for a very long time. Reach out to your local municipalities. If you have to build anything, go, we know we don't have to, but we just want to have your guys' input and get them involved. Because what's going on is absolute tragedy. If they get that site and build it, right now we're going after the Endangered Species Act, supposedly, and it's true they got evidence of a bald eagle possibly nesting in the area on the property, and they just want to go and bulldoze it down. Just don't be like U of M, please. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Haley. Thank you. Okay, I have no one else for public comments. All right, so up next is our facilities. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say for 30 seconds one thing. The state universities are in the Constitution, and they have the right to do things that supersede local township and city ordinances and zoning. U of M does the same thing to the city of Ann Arbor. They do things that don't comply with the city's zoning ordinance. That doesn't apply to us. We work, our community college works with the township entities that our property is housed within. And I just want the public to know that we are open and we work with the townships that we reside in. So people can rest assured that that sort of thing will not happen with our college.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yep. All right, facilities overview at WCC. At this time, I'm Where's VP? There you are. I didn't see you in front of me. Go ahead, Mr. Whipstock.
All right. It is up there. All right, Silly's overview. I think the last time we have done one was about 5 years ago. This is a lot of the stuff that's happened over the past 5 years to bring you updated to our campus. So the PowerPoint presentation I'm going to present to you is it is an executive overview. It's a narrative of what has happened, but you should have received a supplement narrative, which goes into far more detail than I'm going to present tonight. But as we go through it, if you have any questions at any point in time, whether it's on the PowerPoint or the narrative, feel free to ask. All right, the infrastructure modernization that we've been going through, and why are we doing it? Well, it allows a flexible, resilient learning environment by expanding when, where, and how education is delivered. Preserves and extends the useful life of our existing capital assets through strategic, sustainable investments that we do. It allows instructional spaces to adapt to changing program needs and enrollment trends. It protects capital investments, supports student success and employee morale, and strengthens WCC's reputation as a responsible community partner. It also positions us to manage our future instructional and technological economic change while developing a forward-looking master plan. Okay, our current footprint. We have 291 acres, and out of that 291 acres, 129 of it is developed, meaning that there has buildings on it, or parking lot, or retention pond. It's considered developed. 162 acres of our 291 is undeveloped. And then as we break it down, the main college is classified as college zoning. There are some other areas. If you look at zone 1 on the one side of the map, that is still considered or is still zoned as residential area. It hasn't been changed. Zone 2, which is actually in Superior Township, can't see that there, but Zone 2, there's a line that goes through. One half of it is Ann Arbor Township, and the other half is Superior Township. That is still zoned hospital subdistrict, so it hasn't been changed, and that portion's in Superior Township. Our current footprint. People have asked, what do we know as buildable land off right away that we could actually build on? About 25 acres is what we considered buildable without major renovations or changes to the land. So we have about 25 acres, yes.
Disagree with our interpretation of what's buildable?
Well, we had an outside company come in and do a survey, and they did the topals, and they looked into and researched the townships as to what they were classified meant. Oh yeah, this was just done early summer, so I had them doing it early summer this year. All right, the benefits of modernizing our landscape and grounds. It enhances our campus experience. It creates a welcoming first impression as you come in. It also increases our property value, demonstrates the value in sustainable space, and optimizes accessibility and wayfinding. Some of the improvements we've done over the last 5 years, one is parking lot improvements. Lot 7 was redone in 2019. Lot 6 was done in 2021. Lot 4 was done in 2022. And then, as you remember, just this summer, we did lots 2 and 3. Other improvements on the outside, we've done some stormwater and safety upgrades. As you may recall, we just got done doing assistant phones and cameras throughout the complex. One of the other things that we've done over the last 3 years, we have done 128,000 square feet of curbing and sidewalk replacement, which is quite a bit. And one of the other things that we did a few years ago, and it was probably one of the projects that I got the most calls and emails on, is when we did the ML retention pond. When we emptied it, I was getting tons of, they thought we were getting rid of it. But I don't know if you know, what we had to do is we had to, over the time period, a lot of leaves and stuff build up in there, and then what actually happens, it starts clogging the outfalls, and then it starts backing up into the park lots. So we had to dig that all out, put clay in it, and then filled it back in. But we should be good for that for another 20, 25 years now. Other landscape improvements on our planned maintenance list. Every year you'll see that we set aside between $10,000 and $15,000 where we do little small landscape projects throughout the campus. Holly, our grounds manager, and her crew, they'll pick out different areas and basically beautify, small areas at a time. Right now, we're in the works of doing in front of the GM building.
Is that the bee gardens?
That one is the bee garden, yeah.
They're wonderful.
Yep. Other improvements in sustainability, as you may recall, we just upgraded all the LED lights in the parking lots to LED, I'm sorry. We installed EV charging stations, both fleet and public charging stations. We just finished the ones here in the ML building just this past summer. The other thing that we had to do is when we did a lot of the parking lots, we investigate, of course, the stormwater drainage. Several of the areas in lots 2 and 3, we had to replace the drainage systems in those parking lots. Improvements, signs and wayfinding. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we've been changing or updating our signage throughout the campus. We've changed them to LED lighting. The improvements that are made are very noticeable. One of the things I like to bring up is when we were doing the Larry Whitworth Occupational Ed building, Johnson Sign is the one that is changing them. And I went up there and talked to the one guy, and he had told me, he says, I started Johnson Sign 18 years ago, and the first job I had was putting up the sign that I'm taking down now.
Awesome.
All right, building portfolios. This is the history of our buildings. We have 21 structures, which is a total of 1.2 million square feet. The average age of our buildings now are about 35 years old. The oldest buildings are the Crane and T&I building, which were built in 1970. And our newest building or structure was the parking lot structure, which was built in 2012. As you can see, the different ages of our buildings. Now, this is the Facilities Condition Index. We report this to the state each year. It kind of rates where we are with our buildings and maintenance to those buildings. This is what was submitted last year. I do want to note that number 12, the maintenance building, which has a very poor rating, will change since we did the renovation on that building this year. So that rating will change. Otherwise, most of our buildings are in good condition based off of the Facilities Index.
What about the family ed building?
Yes, well, that's been vacant since COVID, and there's a lot of things that need to be modernized in there before we can reuse it.
Is there a rating higher than good?
No, that's it. They have either poor or good. They give you one or the other.
Pass or fail?
Just looking in the folder that we were given,
Yep.
I'm not seeing this in here. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry.
This facilities index, condition index.
Okay, I could have, may have not have been.
And there are conversational summary and
Okay,
some
I'm sorry, I might have not included
You
this.
have
I
it,
might
but
have
it's
missed
all
it.
out if you have it.
It's fine.
If I were at the state of Michigan receiving all of these reports from 28 community colleges, how would we fare compared to them? Are we head and shoulders above them or in the middle of the mix or?
I would say we're probably above average. I mean, if you think of what we've been doing, especially over the last 5 years, we have been putting a lot into our infrastructures. Especially the electrical and everything. We've done a considerable amount of upgrades to them. No. Right. In part of the master plan that we're going to go through, we were going to have a third party come in and do an independent assessment of all this as well to give us a non-biased opinion of our conditions, which would be very helpful.
One more question. What does FCI stand for?
Facilities Condition Index.
And what do the numbers mean? Or what's the best number you could have? 0?
0, which means you have no maintenance needs in that building or no upgrades needed.
So the closer to 0, the better.
The closer to 0, the better. That is correct. Which means you have no investments needed to bring that building up to condition.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Are we saying that that is in the capital report that we've seen already?
Yep.
That page?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we submit to the state our capital outlay
And that's-
plan,
but it's
that
in the
is
one
in there.
we've seen.
That's
Okay.
one of the requirements that they ask us for.
Yeah, I knew that, but I don't remember seeing it, so I'll look for it.
Yep.
No, it's okay. I can find it.
It's going to be in a master plan, huh?
All right, some of the recent building renovations we did, recall, is the Morris Lawrence building back in '22. We renovated that building for $13.5 million. 2024, we did the expansion of the Great Lakes building for $3.75 million. And then just this past summer, we did the storage and receiving building and the maintenance garage for $1.2 million each. Now, planned maintenance program. If you have noticed that our report, we usually had referred to it as our deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance meaning that we have backlog maintenance needs, and that's what we're reporting. Those backlogs we're saying that either through funding sources we weren't able to do it or other reasons why we weren't able to get that. We are not at that point. We're in more of a planned maintenance, a proactive maintenance planning now. That's one of the reasons why we changed the report name, because we've transitioned from a deferred maintenance to a proactive maintenance. So, and a lot of that is we started partnering with different entities to help us with our capital asset preservation. So we bring in different companies, like Tremco does our roof asset management. They come in and help us put the plan together to keep that maintained. Siemens, you may recall, I bring that to you, where they help us do with our building automation system. And part of that is the recommissioning program, which we'll talk a little bit later about. DJ Conley, they come in and help us manage our boilers. They put together a maintenance program and help us maintain those boilers now. Train with the chillers. HOH, which helps us do our water quality program, which is a lot of the closed loop systems that our buildings are heated with. They help us maintain good water quality. Johnson Controls, the same thing with our fire systems. Cummings with our generators, and Kone with our elevator maintenance. They help us put together plans to make sure that these systems operate efficiently.
We have a question. Go ahead, Ruth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To have a copy of that one. That, the one, the screen that you just showed. Groovy. Groovy.
That's great. Perfect.
Thank you.
Right. One I'd like to talk about is our roof asset program, which we do with Tremco. Back in 2021, we brought them in and they infrared scanned every inch of our roofs. So they put this together and looked at the infrared scanning to figure out what we needed to do to ensure the integrity of our roofs. One of the first things we found was a portion, or the oldest section of the Crane Level Arts building, we had to replace the roof, which we did. Also, in that report, we identified that our hazardous waste shed, which is out in back of the Henry Landau building, that roof had to be repaired as well. There was some major leaks happening in there.
Can you describe the nature of the information that an infrared scan gives you?
I'm going to actually show you it in the coming slides.
Stand by. Thanks.
So in 2024, we had to recoat the storage and receiving building. And then in future, we've identified that the BEB building may likely have to have its roof replaced. That's on our schedule or in our forecast of having to repair. Same thing right after that, the Gundry Myron building. Now, these reports that come in when they do the infrared scan, they'll scan it by sections, depending on if it's a raised roof, built-up roof or a lapped roof. They'll section each one of them off. And sometimes it's just minor repairs that they identify that we would have to do. And what they do is, if they see suspect areas, they come back in yearly and reinspect all these areas that they identified from the years before. What that report looks like is, and the other thing I want to mention, Tremco is not a roofing contractor. They're a roofing company that comes in and helps you identify. They don't sell roofs. They don't repair roofs. They're an asset management company that helps us maintain our roofs. So once they identify repairs, they'll actually help us put a bid packet together to help us with identifying how to do the repairs. They'll actually take pictures of the areas and put it all in a documentation. We send it out, we go get bids. The nice thing it is with Tremco is once the repairs start happening with whatever, roofing company wins the bid, they'll act as our owner's rep and make sure that the repairs are done correctly. What their plan looks like, and we actually have this in our forecast, they help us identify expenses where we may need to have expenses for these roofs. They'll help us put budget plans together, and then when budget time comes, and if they say, yep, we got to do this roof this year, we need this, then I take those costs and I submit them to Terry and say, these expenses are coming in this year, and we build it into the budget. Now, the other thing with this is, even though it may be identified here, when they come back out and re-inspect it, they may say, you know what, it's held up better than expected, you can move it off for another year. So just because it may be here, we won't identify the repair till that spring to say, yes, you do need to do it this year, or they'll say, you can hold off another year, holding off expense of that capital expense. Sure.
I see different numbers of dollar signs in these boxes.
Well,
what
they
does that
actually
mean?
help us put it together, but I didn't want to put it here because in case a roofing contractor
I
looks
see.
at it and says, ooh, that's how much they got to spend. I didn't want to put the dollar amounts up there because.
Gotcha. But would we be looking at $3 signs and say that means less of an investment than $6 signs?
No, it was just how many times I hit the.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, another question. Go ahead, Ruth.
No, I just want to make a comment. There's a downside to repairing the roof at Crane Liberal Arts building. My office was on the third floor at the far end, and for the last 10 years of my term there, 90 to 2020, I arranged my plants on the table based on where the roof was leaking. So somebody, whoever has that office now, is going to have to go all the way down to get water someplace else. And it was just a wonderful system we had.
Hopefully that doesn't exist anymore. And the funny thing with, I shouldn't say a funny thing, but with roof leaks, you know, you could have a roof leak starting at that end of the building, and it doesn't come into the building to the other end of the building. So the infrared scanning really helps us identify, because you could actually see the trail of that leak going. So the infrared scanning really helped us out.
My plants did very well.
All right, HVAC recommissioning. Just recently, I brought to the board the Siemens contract, which included the HVAC recommissioning. What we do with these HVAC recommissioning, and hopefully during the tour you'll see this, but we have a list of all of our air handlers throughout the campus, and we take a third of them each year, and we test every component, every actuator, every sensor, and we test each one to make sure it's working properly. And when it's identified as not working properly, we replace it. Sometimes, you know, it's motor actuators. Sensors, you know, room sensors will, believe it or not, can go off, and, you know, we'll get a call saying, hey, it's 78 degrees in here, but we're reading at the front end it's perfect. So those were a lot of the issues that we were having, is that we weren't looking at smaller components as a system as a whole. So now everything related to that air handler is tested now.
Rose, you see how clean it is? How clean it is?
So what does that look like? So these reports, they work with our people. They'll go through and they'll list every component in each and every air handler, and they'll test it. They either pass it or fail it. And if they fail it, we go back, we fix it, they retest it again to make sure it's passed. Now, I know somebody's going to say, well, I see one on there that's failed. But what that is it was a humidifier that was taken out of the system. But since it's still in the system, Siemens tests it and makes sure they put that on the report, just because it's a component that's in there. But we abandon it. So I just thought I'd mention that, because I'm sure somebody was saying, hey, I saw something failed.
Question.
Sure.
Do any of our HVAC students have any interaction with our system at all for learning or testing?
Yeah, we both have.
Okay.
Yeah. Text.
It's coming.
It's coming.
What's that? Yeah. All right, Energy Center. Our Energy Center was built in 1991. It's the central hub for all of our HVAC and electrical systems. It provides power and electrical to 6 of our buildings here. This is all interconnected through a tunnel system. Some of you may have been through there, may have not, but all of those 6 buildings are interconnected through a tunnel system. Some of the modernizations in our Energy Center. Just recently, we've done some improvements to our chillers. Back in 2021, one of the things that was not on the system that was very important was we put a closed-loop filtration system to keep impurities out of the water. Heat transfer happens through this water, and the cleaner the water is, the better the heat transfer. We installed variable frequency drives on all the pumps, which helps not only control the water flow, but helps us save on energy. 2024, as part of, we were trying to make an analysis of where we were as far as the wear on the chillers, whether if we needed to, since they were getting towards the end of their life expectancy, we brought in Train and we did some acid cleaning in all the tubes, which is a harsh cleaning, but at that same time, once we cleaned the tubes, we did what they call an eddy current test, which actually tests the wall thickness of all the tubes to tell us where we were as far as wear and tear on the chillers. We did identify some tubes that had to been replaced. We did that, and I can say that the tubes and the major structure of the chillers are almost like brand new. One of the risks that we did identify was the starters, which are original. They weren't manufactured anymore. If one of them was to have gone out, we would have had to custom make it. So when we discovered that, which was in the end of last year, we said, okay, we were going to change those out. So we did order them. And about 2 weeks before they arrived, guess what happened? One of the starters went out. So we were lucky that we identified this risk ahead of time. We had ordered it and got it in here just in time. All right, the Energy Center, the boilers. We have a total of 3 boilers, 2 of which are 600 horsepower boilers. They're hot water boilers. They're not steam. They work in during the winter operation in the lead-lag sequence, which means that one boiler comes on, heats up the water, for the entire campus, and it hasn't happened in a while, if it gets extreme cold, the other one will come on to supplement it. We've cleaned up our system so well that we have not had to run a second boiler in tandem for over 2 years now. That's how much we've cleaned it up. But we work them as lead lag, so one boiler would run 1 week, and we would shut that one off and go over to another one to equalize the wear and tear on them. The smaller one, the 150 horsepower boiler, we bring on during the summer is basically to heat our domestic hot water system. That is also, the other thing with the new control systems that we put on a few years ago, it all looks at all the boilers. So if any one of them failed during the winter, it would bring on the next one. If that wouldn't have come on, it would bring on the next one. So it actually self-monitors and controls itself as well. The current age of them are 26 years old. What are the life expectancy? Usually around 40 to 50 years old. Chillers, we have 2 900-ton. They work in a lead and lag sequence as well. If temperatures get to the extreme, the second chiller could come on to supplement the cooling needs. And again, proud to say that we've only had to run 1 chiller at a time during this past summer. So we've improved our HVAC program. Our recommissioning has actually helped us out quite a bit for energy savings. All right, the Energy Center power distribution system. Being an engineer, to me, this is really neat stuff. It's a 13.2 kilovolt loop-fed system. It may not mean much to people, but a loop-fed system is a highly reliable system. A lot of places, in order to save money, they'll put in a singular feed, which means it feeds one way. If, let's just say from the Energy Center, then it goes to LA, to the Student Center. If we were to lose LA, or for some reason, everything down the line will go out. With the loop system that we put in back then, if the LA goes down, it's back-fed through and the rest of the buildings stay up. So it's a very highly reliable system. The current age, again, is 26 years old. What is the current life expectancy? Is between 35 and 45 years old. Now, what we're doing to extend the life of those, or making sure they're up to date, we do, even though it's required with NFPA, we do testing and maintenance of our switchgear. The requirement is actually every 6 years that we're supposed to do testing. We do it every 5 years to make sure that we stay in compliance. The big thing is with this is that when we do it, we literally have to shut down an entire building. So, we have to schedule these. We just, I presented last week, we did YOE during the winter break, so when nobody's here. So these are very difficult and they're very intrusive because we have to schedule a whole building going down to do this stuff. But it's very important to extend the life of our equipment. If you may recall, we just finished up the OE substation expansion. The OE building had reached its maximum electrical potential. So when we put in the battery lab, we used literally the last breaker in the OE substation. So prior to the battery lab going in, we had already knew that we were right in getting, so we started the OE expansion. So that happened, the expansion happened right after we finished the battery lab. So it was just timed just right. We added 2,000 amps of electrical capacity, which we could easily put in another 5 to 6 battery labs if we wanted to now. So it gives us quite a bit of expansion capability. This substation not only feeds the OE building, but it also feeds part of the Great Lakes Regional Training Center and the car barn. Why extend the life of existing capital equipment? Some people say if it gets old, just replace it. Well, you know, there's downfalls to that. One is if we extend the life of it, it has a lower upfront cost. It preserves the capital for other instructional programs. It minimizes disruption and it allows flexibility for master plan development. So if we want to do something different than where we thought we were going, by extending the life, that gives us that extra flexibility in it. Full replacement is, you imagine, the high capital out cost, then you have to compete with instructional priorities for spending, causes major disruptions, and sometimes it locks our decisions in too early. Example of planned capital investments in the next 5 years, what we're looking at. One of the things that we have to look at is, and we actually starting, is generator replacement. And the other day I brought you the beginning of the elevator modernization. These are their gaps or risks that we have in our facility that we're starting to address. Generator replacement over the next few years, we have a plan to replace a lot of the generators. Some of them have reached their life expectancy. A few of them are old Olympic type generators, which the company no longer exists, and trying to get parts for them is very difficult. In fact, the one at the Student Center, the one at the top, 2001, 2 years ago, the radiator started leaking in it, and we couldn't get a replacement for it. So I had to have Detroit Radiator come in to custom build a radiator just to keep that thing going. But that's on our plan to update. The other reason, not only because of age, but our requirements have changed. We started putting in more data centers and all that have to be backed up. Testing center has to be backed up. So these increases in the uses for the generators is also driving the replacement of these generators. Modernization of elevators over the next few years. Brought you the one in the Student Center, the passenger elevator, which is right outside here. We want to upgrade that, modernize it. We also want to upgrade the freight elevator, which is in the back here. But also parts of that freight elevator, we want to add that to the generator. That way it'll give us a working elevator in case we have an extended power failure. The other one is the crane liberal arts building. May recall we did do a modernization of the one passenger elevator in the crane building back in 22, and the other one is in needs of updating as well. After that, it would be the T&I building and the business ed building for upgrades. Yes?
I got stuck in the crane elevator once, but that's another story. I think for ADA or for whatever reason, elevators should have bars along the side. Is that requirement now?
So once we do this modernization,
Yeah.
as soon as you do a modernization, you have to bring those up to current
Good,
codes.
okay.
So
we submit a plan, the state approves it, so we have to do all the modernization, all the code requirements that is required. So everything, once we do this modernization, will be up to current code.
Yeah.
And I will say that there is no code, at least for us, to put the elevators on the generators, but I think it's the right thing to do because be hard to get people down without that.
I wasn't stuck for long, about 20 minutes.
All right, essential points of this. Washtenaw Community College has made strategic investments in its facilities and infrastructure to protect its capital assets and reduce our risks and support long-term flexibility. Transitioning from deferred maintenance to a planned maintenance program will reduce emergency repairs and long-term costs. The continued integration of life-extending strategies to major equipment, roofs, HVAC equipment, and utilities to maximize the return on prior investments, preserve capital to support instructional programs. Continue to stabilize the infrastructure, laying the foundation for future master plan with flexibility and without premature large-scale replacements or expansion. Our investments reflect responsible stewardship of public resources and positions Washtenaw Community College to adapt to any future changes.
Are there any insurance aspects to this broadly proactive approach that we're seeing presented tonight?
Well, yeah, anytime if our assets are in good condition, they're less likely to fail and cause like a flood, for example. So, in fact, we have our MCC RMA who provides our coverage. They come in once a year and they actually go through with Craig and identify risks proactively. And they specifically told us that we do a fantastic job of keeping it in order.
So we're looking at 3 generators over the next 5 years, 2030? Or maybe a little bit after that?
Yeah. Hopefully, once we get those done, one of the biggest risks that we have no generator power for the energy center. So if we lose power, we lose the boilers and the pumps and all that. That is part of this plan. As soon as we get these other ones updated.
And we add it.
Yeah, and it's going to be a pretty big generator. So that's in our plan, our forecast of wants coming.
Is there a cost range that we're looking at down the road on these? Just
Which
a range
one?
On the 3 replacements first.
Well, it depends on, we're doing the energy analysis, or engineering on it now. We did a load study. We got all that done. Right now, that's with PBA to start doing the design work. I would say somewhere in between 175 to 250,000 for each one of these now, because remember, we're going to be putting the elevators on this, so that'll require a new ATS switch. So there's a little bit more to it than just upgrading. We have data closets that we have to put on these, so it's not just the generator, but it's also adapting to our other needs that we need. So it's expanding the use of these generators. It's just not a one-for-one replacement.
I'm just asking for the costing, but I encourage you to build in all of those sorts of additional things.
Yeah. And part of it, once we did this analysis, we had given PBA the direction that, okay, no matter what we need and we're estimating, we want to go 25% above that for future growth. So we do put in flexibility. But you can't go too much more on it because generators have to run at what they call an 80% level for a good level. So you can't make them too big or then so.
Power and equipment is inoperative. Is it something damaged or it just doesn't work until the power is restored?
Doesn't work till power is restored, really. One of our MLB, that generator actually powers the entire building. That's the only building that if we lose power, it's self-sufficient. Everything runs in that building, HVAC, everything. So the MLB is self-reliant on the generator. a little trivia too is if, we lose power like we did in 2003, and if you have an electric vehicle, those are on the generators over there. So the EV chargers are on that generator. Yeah.
I just live around the corner, I'll be up here.
Any other questions here? Thoughts?
Good.
All right, let's move on to the master planning with VP Barnes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. I'll try to speak up. I'm a little hoarse. I apologize. I want to build on the presentation that Executive Director Morrison gave on Tuesday evening. I know there was, even though I wasn't here, I know there was a lot of questions that came from the board. There were some questions around scoring and how we ended up going with the collaborative. There were some questions about board participation or how was feedback loops and that sort of thing. And there was also seemed to be questions about the process generally, a little more detail about how the collaborative was going to manage this process. So I'm going to go through those things to hopefully answer most of your questions and take any further questions you may have. So first, just as a reminder, the objective we had was to identify the best firm, or the firm that was best positioned to deliver a comprehensive long-term roadmap to the future that guides campus development, resource allocation, and sound investment in infrastructure. So a lot of words, basically the best firm for the campus master plan. So we did get 3 bidders. If you look at that little green box on the lower right, those are the 3 bidders. We had Newman Smith, the Collaborative, and Albert Kahn. Newman Smith was, let's call it a distant third, so we didn't feel the need to have any further discussion. It's a good firm, but we didn't feel it was appropriate for our campus for this particular project. But Albert Kahn and the Collaborative, the scores were relatively close. So, just as, you might get a stack of resumes or for a job you may have, you look at the resumes, the written portion, and you choose the best ones who you want to interview. So that's basically what we did here. We chose the top 2 firms. We brought them in for more detailed interviews. So during those interviews, I'm going to highlight what started to separate the collaborative when we started talking to them face to face. Some of this would have been mentioned by Executive Director Morrison. Some of it is a little bit new or more detailed information. So the collaborative has completed about 100 campus master plans. Many of these projects have been at community colleges. I think they've worked on 64 campuses across 15 states. So they've got a large, deep experience in this area. They have a flexible phased roadmap, which I'm going to go through on a later slide, that kind of walks you through the 4 phases that they go through and what is part of each of those 4 phases. And their timeline and process was very explicit, so it's very easy for us to follow how it was mapped out. They had, we figured, deeper expertise and a purpose-built team. So the collaborative themselves, they're doing the actual master planning, the architecture, the cost estimating, but they work with partners who are the best in their field. So we're getting the best in their field for each of these. So next one you'll see there for the facilities condition assessment. I'm sure when VP Whipstock was just mentioning the generators and we brought in PBA, he was referring to Peter Basso Associates. So Peter Basso Associates is a partner of the collaborative, and they know our campus very well. So we're already working with somebody who not only is an expert in their field, but also knows our campus very well. There's other experts, infrastructure assessment, Manick and Smith Group. For sustainability and resilience planning, they're working with Emerald Built Environments and then Walker Consultants on mobility, parking, and ADA access. They also partner with Rick's Associates. We did bring in Rick's Associates to do our space utilization study that feeds, or that will feed the campus master plan. So we've already paid for that, so they're not directly a part of this project, but they would be working with the collaborative. They work with the collaborative all the time. So Rick's Associates is a leader in their field for campus master planning, and the Collaborative is a leader in their field for campus master planning.
For instance, with the Peter Basso or the other groups that Collaborative brings in, do they pay them or do we pay them?
They pay them. So the cost that you see presented to the board, that's all inclusive.
Good.
We pay one check to the Collaborative and they take care of everything else. Although we did have them break it out so that we could see what they're paying. Another thing that we thought separated the Collaborative was their focus on future trends. So, even though we work in higher ed, we don't have the privilege of working on each and every campus, right? So they have worked on 64 different campuses. They've done many master plans, and this is actually a chart from their package they presented to us. But they've really got their ear to the ground on what's at the vanguard of trends in higher ed. So they're talking about the same things that we're talking about. You've heard us talk many times about the demographic cliff. They talked about the demographic cliff. AI, you've heard us talk about AI. They talk about AI. So they're aware of all of these trends that we're aware of. So this is a known field to them. This is not new. This isn't one of many different things that they do. They really focus on higher ed.
Question, have they worked with any schools here in Michigan?
Yes, there's a slide on that later. They've
Okay.
worked with 8 schools here in Michigan.
Okay, good, thank you.
Building on that a little bit more, some other things they talked about. They talked about different things. This is just an example of what they talked about, but they even brought in pedagogy. So, what we're really talking about is, over the next decade or even more, how do our physical spaces need to evolve to support the future? They've broken it down, this particular one, into 5 parts. Number 1, the technology and space design, they need to work together from the start. Number 2, expand digital infrastructure. This is, digital infrastructure nowadays is just like electricity and water. You've got to have it. So making sure that we have this and it's built in from day one into our classrooms. As we think about renovation, which we've started to do in places like ML, we need to be doing that. Fostering flexibility, modular furniture, design, etc. This, having a space that's very flexible helps keep the space flexible, of course, but also minimizes costs later on, because if we can adapt that space to many different uses, we don't have to repurpose the space, we can just adapt it as the furniture is done well. Supporting evolving teaching methods. So there's the deans know better than I do, but we have things like simulations now. This wasn't a thing 20, 30 years ago. So there's simulations, there's virtual collaboration, there's these kinds of things that we have to be thinking about as we renovate our classroom and lab spaces. And of course, just keeping pace with trends in the workplace, right, in the workforce, what's going on, that can help us with that. So I wanted to take you a little more detail into their actual planning process. So as I mentioned before, it's broken down into 4 phases, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those 4 phases. And as VP Morrison mentioned, this takes place over about 12 to 15 months. So each of these are 3 to 4 months with some overlap, roughly. So discovery and analysis is, of course, a kickoff. There's a master plan committee meeting. So this will be made up. We'll have to determine who's going to be on that master plan committee, but generally that would include a board member, for example. So somebody from the board would generally participate in, and that's kind of the feedback loop back into the board, right, is having that. There would be building tours, so they're going to go around and get a very good idea of our buildings on a personal basis. They're not just doing this virtually, sitting in their office in Ann Arbor or Toledo. They're coming here on campus. They're going to look at existing conditions. That's hence the report, the facilities condition assessment, infrastructure assessment, but also the space utilization study that we've already done, which you'll see as we go through this process. You'll see that space utilization study. But they start combining all of this data, and they start looking at our data versus, well, what are the benchmarks out there? They know what the benchmarks are. They know what the trends are. They know what the best practices are. So they can compare what we're doing and what our status is to that and help us get to where we need to be. There'll be forums, there'll be, like, for example, focus groups, surveys, et cetera, meetings with constituents around campus to get, ideas, which actually leads into phase 2, which is the idea generation and exploration of options. So, and also I neglected to mention each of these phases, there's 2 master plan committee meetings per phase for the first 3 phases. So there'll be 2 more meetings in phase 2. They'll look at the parking needs, et cetera. And they'll start to get some first thoughts in terms of what is it we want to do, because they will have looked at all our data, they will have gotten some surveys, some focus group information. What are our land use strategies? This is just the idea generation. Doesn't mean every idea doesn't become part of the plan, but they're ideas, and we want to foster that kind of those ideas. So we'll look at, well, what are the renovations we might want to do? What are the additions we might want to do? Are there any demolitions we want to do, or new facilities? Are there things we can do to improve site circulation? So the buses come by here. Do we need to do something to improve drop-offs? Maybe for the buses, maybe for the WTMC students, those sorts of things they can help us with. And so generally starting to form the direction of the master plan. Phase 3 is refinement. So again, I mentioned, we've got all these ideas. We can't do every idea. We have to choose, well, what's the best, most value add ideas? How can we get the most bang for our buck at the college? So they help us refine that. And once we figure out what we want to do, they can help us phase it. So what do we want to do first? What's a near-term goal? Like, what do we want to do in the first 5 years, near term? What about the next 5 years? And then even 10 to 20 years out. So this isn't just a near-term vision. This is a vision for where we want to be in like 2045. And they also give us an order of magnitude of cost. So it won't be, super precise, but it gives us a general idea of how much things will cost. So it helps you prioritize if you want to do the cheaper things first. Sometimes you may want to do the more expensive things first. So it depends. And the last phase 4, is the documentation. And I think you all received a binder. There's actually an example of the campus master plan that was done for Grand Rapids Community College. So that is a very good example of exactly what you're going to get, which has the site plans, the floor plans, colored illustrations, narrative, and it gives all the plans, as I just mentioned, for renovations, for new constructions, for land acquisition or utilization, pedestrians, vehicles, cost estimates, and phasing. I don't know if Trustee Hatcher, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand. Oh, sorry.
You good?
No, I'm interested in maps, and I see that in this one there are lots of maps.
Yes,
So
yes.
maps help.
Yeah, no, they do.
The section 1 is our old one, if you want to see the campus map and all that. Okay.
And then, of course, there'll be a final summary presentation, and as well as an executive summary, because it will be, when you see the binder, is literally about this thick. So you can look at an executive summary. It's not practical for us necessarily to read the whole thing unless, most of it is a reference that we can use for years and years and years. So I wanted to talk just a moment about Albert Kahn. Albert Kahn, of course, is a renowned firm here in the area, very highly qualified. But one of the things that we noted was that a lot of their experience is in hospital campuses, it's in corporate campuses. They do have a little bit of experience in higher ed, but it's generally doing architectural work and so forth. Not a ton of work in campus master planning per se. So that's one of the things that we noted. Now, they have done it, but it's just much, much less in scale. And some of this stuff was a little more conventional. And what I'm trying to say is, they didn't focus as much on the academic spaces or learning flexibility. This is, even though they have a person that's dedicated to this kind of stuff, it's still, not their, I'll call it their strength. At least we didn't think it was I don't want to say their strength, not the fit that we wanted. So again, they were an excellent firm, but we just felt that the collaborative was a better fit overall after listening to both teams. In terms of references, we got 5 references from the collaborative. We contacted 3 of them, and all of them gave them extremely high praise. They couldn't say enough good things about them. So it gave us extra confidence that we were recommending a good firm to the board.
And just if I may, I contacted 2 personally in addition, and Julie contacted 3. So purchasing, I followed up with 2 presidents, and then Julie did as well.
So Albert Kahn also gave us higher ed references, but their references, again, tended to be architectural work that they had done as opposed to campus master planning. So Trustee McKnight Morton had asked which of the colleges in Michigan specifically have worked. So there's 8 colleges: Adrian, Alma, Grand Rapids Community College, Kalamazoo College, Lake Michigan College, Lawrence Tech, Olivet College, and Siena Heights. But again, they've done master plans across 15 states and 64 campuses.
And there's an office here in the Michigan, Ann Arbor,
Ann Arbor.
Detroit area?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's an
really?
office
Here
in Ann Arbor, yes.
Okay, that makes it a little easy.
So why now? So as part of our current strategic plan, there were 4 key goals. Online learning was the first key goal, student success, second key goal, and data analytics, third key goal. And we've been actively working, and you've seen various presentations that show what we've been doing in these 3 areas. Well, kind of the 4th key goal and the final piece of this is the comprehensive campus master plan. So we kind of needed to do those things first. Now that we have a good understanding of it, we can do this last piece and form that master plan. So in summary, again, we just thought that the collaborative represented the strongest strategic partner for this particular project, and that they think they're going to be the best partner to help us identify the future investments and long-term planning and future readiness for the campus. So hopefully that answered most of your questions, but I'm happy to take any others.
Eileen?
So on the initial analysis of the scores, Albert Kahn scored a 425 out of what I'm assuming is 5.
Yes.
And the collaborative scored 395 out of 5. So my question is, how did Albert Kahn present itself to the evaluators in such a way that they outscored the collaborative on paper? I understand, sort of the 2-part process, and, when you're looking at a written response or the initial response, and then you get into, and you engage them in conversation, the picture changes. I'm just wondering, what was it about Kahn's response that allowed the evaluators to come up with a better initial score for Kahn than the collaborative?
I think, again, the initial score was just based on the written proposal. The scoring wasn't based on the actual interviews. It was only based on the written proposal. So when you're looking at the written proposal, you can only go with what you have, right? Just like if you're looking at a resume, one candidate may appear to be a superior, and after you interview, you think the other candidate is a better fit. But after we evaluated the written proposals, I think we thought, because there were higher ed projects presented by Albert Kahn, so when we were going through the written proposal, we had a better, it appeared that they were more proficient in areas than after we started talking to them that we thought they were. And I don't know if I'm using the right words. I don't want to suggest that Albert Kahn isn't proficient, but I think, overestimated their expertise in campus master planning and underestimated
We had an epiphany.
the collaborative. I wouldn't say it was an epiphany. You know, anytime you're in an interview, you know, people emphasize different things, right? So the collaborative emphasized things that Albert Kahn didn't. And when we were talking to the collaborative, it was apparent to everybody at the table that their depth of experience with campuses and universities and colleges was vastly superior. And for whatever reason, that didn't come across as well in the written proposal. But in when we were talking to them, it was very, very clear.
So were the presentations scored or unscored?
They were unscored. The presentations themselves, we didn't score the presentations. They were done not too far apart, and it's the same people, the same people. And I think if it had been a close call, we would have had to do some scoring. But it was immediately unanimous around the table. It was apparent to everyone at the table that the collaborative was the superior fit for this particular project. So I think it's not that we shouldn't have done scoring. Maybe we should have done it as a formality. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but it was so apparent that we didn't do that in the second case.
I would just suggest that perhaps in the future, if you're going to do a two-part evaluation, that you score both parts, because what we're left with is the evidence that Albert Kahn outscored the collaborative, and there's no sort of tangible documentation of that second part of the process that changed everyone's mind.
Okay.
So that's just my suggestion.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that. First of all, as you know, because we've been in a meeting where we did scoring like this, I don't like these scoring systems. And there's things that are left out, and the weighting is really important in how you weight this. And I note that organizational team and statement of qualifications is 0.4 of the weight, and in those two categories. And those two categories, the Albert Kahn bidder significantly outscored the collaborative. But as I'm looking at what these categories are and listening to your discussion of the collaborative strengths, I could see, like, if this had been revisited after the meetings and have people adjust the scoring based on the meeting, the verbal and oral interactions with questioning, how these things could have easily been rescored to the benefit of the collaborative.
Yeah.
Now, I'm comfortable with taking I'm with Eileen that it helps us as a board to legitimately support voting for one over the other if it's the higher scored one. When it's the lower scored one, then we have to have rational, just for the benefit of the public, as fiduciary agents of the taxpayers, to be comfortably and good conscience say to the taxpayers, we're doing the best thing for the college. So that given, and you know personally how I don't like these scoring systems, but the reevaluating the scoring after that, I think would have been very helpful. I'm very comfortable with the strengths of the collaborative, hearing you discuss those and hearing the rationale for selecting the collaborative over Albert Kahn. They're both good firms.
Yes.
And the bids are comparable. And I see actual legitimate savings because the collaborative already partners with people that we work with in other aspects of our strategic planning or our facilities planning. So I see benefits there that aren't really reflected in that initial scoring system.
Right.
So I'm comfortable supporting the collaborative, but it would be helpful in the future to have some sort of a way to evaluate, to reflect that with the data points that give us support for being able to tell the taxpayers we're making the best decision on behalf of the people in our community.
Okay.
So that just in the future, that would be a really good thing. But hearing what you've had to say about the collaborative gives me a lot of confidence that they can easily meet our needs, and I'm comfortable supporting them.
Okay. That's a fair comment. We'll do that going forward.
We could talk about a preliminary scoring and a preliminary scoring and an adjusted scoring to satisfy those requirements once you've laid out these data.
Yeah, we'll definitely revisit the process to make sure that we have something that's very transparent going forward.
Thank you.
I just want to.
Ruth was next, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And then you can go.
I think they're going to be very happy to be here because, I mean, our facilities management people have done half their work for them. I mean, the thoroughness with which they have approached our facilities, we should take some money off Collaborative's bid because they've done half the work for them.
They did already.
We actually did.
Oh, good.
So we went back.
There's a negotiated amount that's $12,000 lower than
Absolutely. That presentation was almost enough to have a master plan out of.
It does accomplish a couple of large sections of it, yes.
I'm just going back in history. If I remember correctly, Albert Kahn used to be on our list for projects that we were doing, but and I used to do scoring, so I understand the scoring. It was convoluted at that time, but it worked out somehow or another. We worked it out. So I don't know what it looks like now. So maybe some of the suggestions, you can look at and stuff. But what I wanted to say too is that Albert Kahn, we never, as far as I remember, we never used them for several reasons. And but I know that I say, but we didn't, and it turned out fine because we picked someone else. Also, I want to say is this: we always have to look at just because the price is lower than the other price doesn't mean that's the company to use, because we have done that before. The lower price, the higher price, we picked over the lower price, and they didn't do a good job. So there was a lot of haggling and back and forth. Attorneys, they wanted to sue us and stuff. I don't want us to go through that. Just because that's or is higher doesn't mean that they would have been able to do the job. So we picked the persons, which I commend you in picking the correct company to do the job.
I'll just comment too, just on the scoring. Of course, it's subjective, right? But we did try to put some parameters. So we put a definition for what's a 1, what's a 2, what's a 3. Because your definition of a 3 might be different than my definition of a 3. So it's still subjective, but it tries to make it a little more objective. So.
Thank you. We're really looking forward to the master planning process, but I wanted to say something, thank you, before we go upstairs. So is this a great time?
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, this is the right time. So before you, thank you very much, Terry, and thank you, Julie. Thank you, appreciate that. And Craig, thank you. This chart, I just wanted to take a moment. I'm so glad that we recognized our facilities maintenance and grounds team on Tuesday. And it was just timing. There wasn't a setup for this because they are spectacular. They really, really are. And I'd like you to just take a look at, these are the leaders that we have of some areas that are today that we're going to look at, but I'd like you to just see their qualifications.
Some good credentials.
Isn't that amazing? So if you look at Craig here, associate. Yes. MBA, Donna. So if you can see, you met Emily once, I think, or twice. She's here. Hi, Emily. I'm really excited for you to meet Emily. You're just here this evening, but he's also outstanding in what he does. And Todd, is he here? No. Okay, everyone knows Todd. You think this is his house, okay, his home. I mean, he is so serious about everything that he does and the quality of his work and customer service, meaning internal customers as well as external customers. So, and then there are others. You met Becky once before, and this team is just remarkable. Holly, you mentioned Holly with the grounds. So I just, Craig, you got a great team. I'd like to thank the board for supporting them. We hire quality people. We really, really do. And I am very proud of the work that you do, Craig, and your team.
Thank you very much. Did they do a master plan?
I don't see a credential here for them, but maybe. They can probably do about anything.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Maybe the next one.
All right, so we are on schedule. Next on the agenda is our tour. So we meet at the door.
Are we going outside?
All right, so we just need to adjourn here. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. Any discussion? No. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got done
for
5 minutes.